Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends. These are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, I am so excited about my guest today. This is so much fun. And to give you guys just a little background really quick, Andrea Pass. She has been a friend of mine. She's been a guest on Starter Girls. She has sent many people our way, and we have featured them on either Starter Girls or Behind the Dreamers. And so my guest today is another fabulous person coming from Andrea Pass. So I want to do that really quick, make that, because people ask me like, where do you get these people from? Or where do they come in? And so now you guys know, but she is part of a 5-generation family in the funeral industry. And we have not had anybody do this. So this is going to be different for us. Based in Philadelphia, their family-owned and operated funeral home has provided dedicated service to the Jewish community for over 140 years. You guys have been around forever. They say their commitment extends far beyond their reputation as the area's most trusted and well-known Jewish funeral home. Today, almost 35% of funeral directors are women. And so you guys are going to get to hear from one today, which I think is so cool. So before we do that, I do want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors. So today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Photography. If you are a creator needing post-production, consultation, or promotion, Walt is your guy. Whether short films, YouTube films, photography work, or a new headshot, he can help you find a solution to match your needs. To learn more about Walt and his work, you're going to want to go to photosbywalt.com. All right, this is going to be exciting. So Randi Goldstein Casey serves as the vice president and funeral director of the funeral home. I'm so excited to chat with her. Part of what she does is assist with planning memorial services and funerals in a way that respects tradition and individual wishes. She notes that they are often grief counselors providing essential support before, during, and after the funeral. And so I am excited to hear from you, Randi. So welcome to Behind the Dreamers. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And thank you for being patient on our 2 minutes and 12 seconds of intros.
No problem. I get it.
We always have to go through the little bit so we can, and that's why I always love to do those little soft intros at the beginning. So I'm like, okay, who are we going to talk to today before we meet this person? So I'm so excited because I've never actually, I will be honest, I said this, I've never talked to anybody on this show that's been in that industry. And I don't even think I know anybody that does what you do. So I'm just kind of excited to learn a little bit about your journey and what you're doing and how this all got started. So let's back us up a little bit, because this funeral home's been in existence for a really long time. So tell us a little bit about, from your perspective, what that's like being a part of something with this kind of legacy.
It's interesting. Well, the length of time is because we merged with another funeral home. So my family, the Goldstein family, we started Goldstein's funeral directors back in the 1940s.
Okay.
Can't give you an exact year. I can't remember, but it was my grandfather and my great uncle that started the business.
Okay.
Rosenberg's funeral home started in the 1800s, 1800s, and hence the longevity. Rosenberg's merged with Raphael Sachs, and then in 1992, Rosenberg's Raphael Sachs merged with Goldstein's, and that's where we get the whole 140 plus years of service. But my journey started, I was basically born into the funeral business. This is, my grandfather, my dad, and my uncle, my first cousins who are a little bit older than me, my brother, myself, like we just kind of followed suit and came in.
Yeah. Well, and hence I was going to say the long name of the funeral home too, right? Like you got the merging going on here. And I think it's so interesting, my parents were entrepreneurs, but we weren't really born into like a company thing, so I think it's so different when you have a situation where it's like, this is this family business and you kind of just, was it like assumed when you were young that you were going to do this? Or did you just kind of at some point decide, you know what, I want to follow in suit with my family?
Well, for me and my brothers, we were not pushed to come in because my father was forced to come into the business and he didn't really want to do this. So he wasn't going to do that to me and my brothers. But when I graduated high school and I was going to college, I started working here as an admin. And I, thought, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get my degree, and I'm going to do something. Well, got my degree and decided I didn't know what I was going to do. So I kind of liked what we were doing here. I liked the fact that it was different every day, helping different families. And I went on the mortuary school and decided to come into business. And
Wow.
I've been working here as a licensed funeral director since for a very long time, since I was 25.
Wow. Wow.
So
I think that's interesting. And it's funny that you say that, you went to college and then you didn't know what you were going to do. I think that's like a common thing, is it not? I mean, it's like, who knows what they're going to do when they come out of college? I mean, some people do, but I think majority think they do. And then somewhere down the line, even if they think they do, they change again, right? Like they end up doing something else.
most of the people I know who have degrees do not work in their degrees. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're totally different direction.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I
and I'm an
always,
English major, and I'm not doing anything,
I mean,
with that.
you're good at the English stuff. That's not mine. It's funny. I studied accounting in college, because my mother had a bookkeeping service back in the 80s. And if you remember, they had like those executive suites where they would have like the
Yep.
switchboard operator and somebody would do all the typing. Now they hire VAs to do all that stuff, but she had all these clients in there, and she had this bookkeeping prep service that she would do for people. And so I thought, I'm going to go be a CPA. I'm going to go do accounting. And then I got into that and I was like, I have
Yeah.
like a little bit too much personality for this. Not that it's a bad thing, but like I was kind of bored. I was good at it. I was just bored. And then I kind of switched and decided to go into marketing. And it's so funny because I've talked about this several times in the show. I had this guest come on back in early February of 2020. I want to say, I don't know, it was before all the COVID stuff started. And we're still good friends. And she always says, like your strengths somehow kind of find you. You know what I mean? Like they sort of catch up with you at some point in life, even if you try to deny them.
Yep, very true, very true.
So,
And I do like what I do. It's working in a family business has its ups and downs.
right, right.
But for the most part, we get along pretty well. I mean, considering I'm third generation officially, I have
Okay.
fourth generation working for us, some fourth generation coming in. Like my daughter's decided to go to mortuary school and she's coming in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a big surprise. I never thought she would do it. And we have fifth generation on the other side of my family, my great uncle's side. So that's where the fifth generation is coming in. And on the Rosenberg side, I think it's fourth or fifth. So that works here. So yeah, and we manage, most family owned businesses are lucky to make it past the second generation. So the fact
Yeah,
that we're third and fourth running it and fifth coming in is pretty impressive.
I agree with you. What do you feel like maybe is the success in the, is there anything you can think of that, like, because you're right. I mean, I meet people that are in family business, and I think family businesses alone is like a hard dynamic, right? Especially if you've got like spouses and kids and all. But when you start getting into generation, like you're saying, there's something you guys are doing that I feel like is setting you apart. You know what I mean?
I think the one thing is that we're really good at leaving our work grievances at work. And when we're all, like, we were all together this past Sunday at my niece's wedding.
Wow.
And if we had a falling out or anything, if anyone had anyone, no one would know it. When we're out, we're a tight knit family. We're very close. We all get along. We don't bring it home with us, is
That's good.
basically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and we're
good.
very much blood is thicker than water. Like I can say whatever I want about my family, but you can't.
I get it. I get it. I would probably say that too, though. I'm kind of that way too. Like, we're allowed to do that with our own, but nobody else can, right? Like, just don't
Right,
go down that road.
exactly.
I get it. I get it. I love it. Well, and I applaud you guys for that, because I think that is huge. I mean, I interview a lot of just like husband and wife teams that do businesses, and I'm always impressed that they're able to get, be able to do that in that environment. But then, like I said, you guys, where you're having now, like your daughter's coming up and wanting to do this, you guys
I
are
mean,
obviously,
mainly it's parent and children and grandchildren. There's not spouses are not in it, so
yeah, yeah. No, I think
probably
that's,
makes it better too.
I agree with you, but I think it's awesome that your daughter's wanting to follow suit too. I think that's good for you that, she's clearly seeing something that, hey, you guys are doing something here that's working, and she wants to be a part of that. So I think
Yeah,
that's
it's pretty
awesome.
cool.
I think it's cool too. Like, I was telling somebody the other day that because I always believe, more is caught than taught. Like, right, what we teach, we can say things all day long. They don't really hear it, but they watch you in action, right? It's so funny because my son, he was right when he graduated from school. This is my youngest. He went off and joined this restaurant and did this, what they call basically new restaurant opening. And so they would go to different restaurants in different states and they would help do leadership training, basically train them how to get started. So it was really a neat opportunity. He was, barely 18 and got to go do this. So he came back. Now he's going to school. So now he's a freshman and he's in speech class and he's writing this speech right now about, I don't even know what it is, but it's about like leadership. So he's writing about his current job because he's a chef. But what I think is so neat, it's not that he's writing about being a chef. The words that I hear him putting on the paper, like the message that he's giving is about showing up and doing the work, even when you don't feel like it, and setting examples. It's all the stuff that they've heard me sort of talk about to my clients and to my teams for years and years and years. And so you don't really realize the things that they pick up until you sort of see them kind of following in some of the footsteps. And then you realize, oh, you've had a little bit of impact. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's impressive. And like I said, she was going to school, and then she had a job in her field, and then she left her job after a year because they were really it wasn't a good fit for her, and she struggled finding a job. And then we had an opening here at the funeral home, and I said, "Do you want to come be an admin just until you find something?" And as she's here, she had worked here in summers when she was off of college, but picked it right back up again and really kind of liked it, like the idea of helping people through something that's hard, and has a good head on her shoulders for it. And I think she's going to do really well. So
yeah, that's good.
Started mortuary school.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and you were talking, I mentioned this kind of in the bio about sort of being like grief counselors, because I just feel, from my perspective, because I feel like when I do coaching with clients, I feel like that's sort of like therapy, and I get exhausted. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I get tired because I feel like I'm walking people through crisis a lot. You know what I mean? And helping them solve problems. And you're kind of doing something where now you're having to deal with people on subjects they don't really always want to talk about. They don't want to have to deal with. And those are hard things, right? And so, I guess maybe the question that I would ask you on that, is that something that they teach you when you go to mortuary school? Or is that something that you feel like you have to kind of develop with? Like, I feel like a lot of my skills in that has had to been developed dealing with people. So what's your perspective on that?
I mean, I think in mortuary school, they teach you the basics. They don't give you, they give you a few tools to use, but I think a lot of it comes with just experience and dealing with it. I also was a bereavement facilitator for a while. I haven't renewed my license for that. Basically, that means I can run groups or whatever, but I'm not a psychologist. I'm not I don't have a background in that, but I think, you become intuitive to people, and you realize that the biggest skill in this industry for me is listening, hearing what someone's saying. Because, they're dealing with either end of life, that someone just died, or they're trying to prepare because their parents are getting older or they're ill. And there's a lot of things that go along with that. And listening is the number one skill. And as you listen, you just start to learn, and you kind of just play off of, there's like no simple answer. You just kind of play off of what they're telling you and go from there.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I would say that even in my field, probably in a lot of fields, right? Because I feel like people tell you find out a lot about people just by listening to what they say, right? Like you can ask one question, and sometimes you don't even need to ask another question because they tell you everything you need to know in that one question, So
whether you want to hear it or not.
Exactly. You're in a place where you probably hear a lot of things. I mean, I can imagine. I feel like people do that to me too. I feel like they tell me everything sometimes, and I'm just like, I don't know if I wanted to know that or not, but maybe it was important.
We get the quote, I bet you never met a more dysfunctional family. And I'm always like, you really want to play that game? Yeah, but it also breaks the tension. So,
I was going to say,
a lot of times, there's infighting, and it comes out during funerals, or everything's just great and the family's just real easy, and you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, I was going to say, you probably at the time of a funeral will see some things just really true colors can surface in those moments, right? I'm sure, you're just dealing with family members and trying to get people to agree and but it sounds like you guys are doing the right things. And so I do want to ask you, because you guys have been in the community for a while and serving the Jewish community. What do you feel like, other than it being like this 5 generation, which I think that is huge, and you merging together, what do you feel like sets you guys apart, as the company as a whole?
I think that, we're always available for our families 24/7. You never you always get one of us.
Yeah.
We just strive to do our best and always do the best for our families. We try and honor all their requests that they have and make things happen. We're very involved in a lot of organizations, Jewish organizations, not Jewish organizations. I mean, we are a funeral home first and foremost. We serve anyone and everyone, and that's, we've made a big push in letting people know in interfaith marriages that we can serve both sides of the family, and we really want to, and we're here to help you. We're very inclusive that way.
I like that.
I think that's like the best. And again, hearing what our families want and trying to get it done for them in a timely manner, because if they are Jewish, the funerals happen pretty quickly. So we're able to do that for the families.
I love that. And I like that you're looking at the client's needs, because I think that is so important. I mean, I feel like, as business owners, whatever role we play, right? Like, we have to understand that whatever our values are, like what's important to us, right? But how can we transfer those values to our clients so that they can have the win-win as well, and we both can come out, in a good place. And I like that y'all are thinking from that perspective, because I think that is so important. Because I think so many times when companies get in a place where either they're so, onto something and they get so hinged on something that they can't really meet the client's need, or they start bending and breaking what's important to them to meet the client, and they're having a lot of inner conflicts. So I feel like there's that happy middle where you can say, okay, these are what we value, this is what's important to us as a company, and then how do we translate that over to our clients so they feel like, hey, this is a win.
Well, and the industry's changing, and the fact that people want to do more for their loved ones at a funeral, and instead of being rigid and stuck in the old way of doing things, we're willing to listen and adapt and remodel, for lack of a better word, of how to do what they're asking us to do. Yeah. COVID played a huge part in that, and learning how to Zoom on the spot and do everything over the phone and internet and DocuSign and all that. So there was a big learning curve for us, and we, jumped in as quick as we could. But, just overall, people want video tributes. People want more flowers. People want more people speaking at their funeral or their loved one's funeral. Music played, whatever, Jewish funerals back in the day were very cookie cutter. Come in, do a 20-minute service, head out to the cemetery. It's not like that anymore. And you have to be willing to adapt and grow with what the community wants, what your clients want.
Yeah. So. And I think you make a good point on that with COVID, because when we talk about that, how everything's adapted, and some things, I feel like, goodness gracious, what I'm loving, Randy, is the fact that we have doctor's appointments now that we can sometimes do on Zoom. Oh my gosh, why were we not doing that? Right? I get it. There's sometimes we need to go in because there's reasons, but sometimes it's such a waste of time. We could be having these conversations over a video camera and saving, gas and time and stuff. So I think they're definitely, us, the businesses that have been able to survive and sort of make that adjustment to all of that have been able to come out on that other side. And it says a lot about the company in itself, is the ability to make a pivot.
Right. And we were front line during COVID. We were coming to work. And we have 2 locations, one in Philadelphia and one in Bucks County, which is right outside the city. And our Philadelphia location is larger, so that became the COVID building. And our other location, we made the non-COVID building. And we were slammed here, especially May and June or April, May and June of 2020. It was.
You just gave me chills. I can imagine.
And it was, not that we've always been kind of busy and doing stuff, but this was a whole new ballgame, because families couldn't come in because we didn't know what we were dealing with. And, everyone treated it as, you didn't know if it was still contagious after death or whatever. So It was a big adjustment. And then, you could only have so many people at a service, at a graveside service. So then Zoom came into play. We closed our chapels. We weren't having any services in the building because you didn't want anyone coming in. Right. So it was a lot. And, the calls, as you heard on the national news, were nonstop. There was a lot of deaths due to COVID. So it was crazy, but it also, pushed us forward to learn how to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like you said, like where was Zoom before this? Like,
Right.
why weren't we using it for all graveside services? So if someone couldn't make it, why did it take a pandemic to figure that one out? But it did.
Right. Well, and funny on the flip side, my daughter, my oldest, got married and did her wedding over Zoom at the courthouse. She didn't want to have she didn't want to have a wedding. She just wanted to go to the courthouse and get married. So we could not go because of COVID. So we watched it on a Zoom recording, or not a recording. We watched the live wedding on a Zoom at the Denton courthouse. I'm like, who would have thought, right? Like, who would have thought that would have been what we would be doing? So on the flip side of everything.
Hey, way to save money on a wedding.
I know. We gave them money to go travel. As we just said, here's some cash, go. And I think they went to Hawaii. So that was a win-win for them. So, right. I do want to ask you a question because you are, kind of in the leadership position. You're a mother, you're running this thing and all of that. I want to know because I feel like this is a favorite part of this podcast. I would like to know what you've learned about yourself in this journey working in here and like about yourself as a human being. Because I love this question.
That's tough. Well, my marriage fell apart when my kids were in high school. So I became like a single parent when it got a little crazy. How kids, like they're figuring out college, they're sophomore and a senior. I worked full time. I had to deal with a pending divorce that never actually came to fruition, but a lot of stuff was going on. And, I guess through my journey, I learned that I'm a lot tougher than I thought. Everyone always thought I was tough and strong, but I never thought I was. So I think I realized I can pretty much handle anything thrown at me. Yeah, I might break down and lose it a few times, but I can get it together and figure it out. I learned that I'm pretty good under pressure. I'm really good at dealing with what we would call like the hard cases when someone loses a child or something like that or tragic. I tend to gravitate towards those and take them, and I like working with those families. So I guess, I have an ability that when, I fly off the handle on little things, my kids will tell you that, my two daughters, but when it comes to the big stuff, I'm pretty calm. That doesn't faze me. The big stuff I can deal with. I'll have my meltdown afterwards, but that's, so I learned that I'm pretty good under pressure. I'd say that's
good.
my
well, and I think just doing what you do, I imagine, and I may be wrong on this, but I'm just, listening to you, I imagine that doing what you do every day in your industry really transfers over to your ability to, because I feel like it's one of those things when you have something hard, the first time you have something hard, it's really hard, right? Then you get a lot of hard things, and those things that might have been hard, 5-10 years ago are really no longer hard anymore because you've been subject to a lot of hard things. So I imagine dealing with all these different people and these different types, cases and events that are going on, that it's made you actually, in some ways be more aware of things going on around you and have more patience and tolerance and giving people grace. So I think that's a gift. I applaud you. I think it's impressive that you're able to do this every day, because I feel like when I hear funeral home, I just immediately go, okay, every time I've been to a funeral, I have been sad, and I feel like there's been chaos, and I think about it and go, God bless you. You are amazing.
Well, we look at I look at it this way. You can't not take it home with you. We're human. Right. Certain ones hit you no matter what age they are, or what, certain circumstances hit them. But, we laugh a lot. We crack each other up. We're constantly, but that's our way of blowing off steam, You trip and fall in front of one of us, we're all going to laugh before we ask if you're okay. That's just us. We have a very dark sense of humor.
You fell down. Did you break your leg?
Right. Inappropriate, we're pretty rough, but again, that's our way of blowing off steam, and it's all fun and games, and we all know that.
It's awesome.
I think the older you get, the more confidence you have in yourself.
I agree.
And also, the older I've gotten, it's okay to laugh at yourself. It's okay if you make a mistake. You don't take. You still take it to heart to a certain extent, but you don't beat yourself up to no end. The nth degree over it. So, I mean, stuff happens. You can't be perfect all the time. You just strive to do your best, and you say you're sorry if you messed up. And that's one thing I've really learned. Like, an apology goes a long way, especially if you really mean it from the heart.
I would agree with you on all of those, Randy. And I do say that I always talk about, like, because people, when I meet people, when I talk about podcasting, because I've been doing this since October of 2019, and those podcasts that we did in the beginning, I mean, they were awful. They were terrible. But the funny thing is, when I first started out, I would get really upset about all the things I'd say and didn't say and how I behaved. And, now I tell people, I'm like, go look at them. You're going to get a laugh because I'm going to give you hope. I'm going to show you that if you practice long enough and you keep doing something and you learn to laugh at yourself a little bit, it's okay. Now I do. I laugh at myself. I look at the videos and sometimes I'll be like, why did I say that? That's kind of funny. No, we're going to leave that in there because that's just Jennifer. That's you get what you get. But I think you're right. It's all about that. It's learning to laugh and make light of things and be able to be okay and apologize and admit when you're wrong. I think those things are wisdom. You get them with the wisdom.
Yeah, I think, the longer you do something, the more you gain confidence is definitely a big thing. And just, learn that, like, you're always learning on the fly, especially in this business. No two funerals are the same. And you figure it out and, pat yourself on the back because you figured it out. Or don't be afraid to ask someone a question if you can't figure it out. Like, we're very much, we work as a team. Like, just because the family would ask for me, let's say, if I can't figure it out, I'm going to go ask one of my partners, be like, hey, they're asking for this. I don't know how to do it. How do we do this? And, collaboration too. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you don't understand something or if you're not sure, or, like, and we constantly have each other's back because, the bottom line is we're all Goldsteins, Rosenbergs, Raphael Sachs, and we all want to put out the best product, for lack of a better word, that we can. So,
Yeah. Well, I think this is all good because if I were going to ask you, like, what advice would you give to somebody who's maybe like either going to go into that industry or maybe they're starting out? I think the whole idea here, you said, working as a team, it's not one person in this organization. The whole family's everybody's being represented and they're all part of that team. Right. And I think, learning to laugh and enjoy what you do and being able to laugh at some of the things I think is important. And you said something else and I'm drawing a blank, something else you said earlier that I thought was really good too. It'll probably come back to me. So
about listening.
Do what?
About listening to what
yes, we talked. There was something else, but that too. Yes. Oh, yes, and absolutely listening to the client's needs. That's important, right? And somebody was on the other day that was saying the client was what was it? The client is the boss or something. They're always right, and I'm like, yes, most of the time. Every once in a while, you get those clients that you're not going to be able to please, and I think those sometimes you do have to put your foot down. But I think most of the time, people just want to be heard and. And I think maybe something in this case that we could talk about really fast, it would be really good is, because you're probably dealing with a lot of people that are coming in, they're upset, they're frustrated. And one of the things I've always said is that, most of the time people don't really want you to solve their problems. They just want you to hear what they have to say, right? Like they just want to know you have an ear and you're saying, hey, I get it. It sucks. This is hard.
And they want to be validated. They want their feelings to be validated. They want their opinions to be validated. They want to know that their opinion matters. And they want to, I have to say, like, a lot of times families get upset with the cemetery or they upset with the doctor, the hospital, the treatment, and we get the brunt of it because we're the contact. That's who they call. But then, if you listen to them and you say, I'm really sorry you went through that, like, what happened? Did you talk to the administrator? Like, you can kind of like give them steps and help them through it. And they appreciate that. But everyone wants to feel valued and validated in their feelings. And that's, I think, a huge thing in any industry. Like, you really need to hear people and hear what they're not always yelling at you. There's sometimes they just need to get it off their chest. Just be there and listen. It's like we are like grief counselors, therapists. That's just what we do.
Well, thank you for saying that because I agree with you. I think that in any industry, anything you do, there are going to be those clients that come in that you're going to have those problems. And, I always go back to, I don't know if you've read Stephen Covey's, I always talk about this book, The 7 Habits of the Highly Effective, and he talks about the win-win in there. And he uses a great example. You can look it up on YouTube where he does this arm wrestle thing. And I always talk about that, like when you try to meet your client in the middle and just recognize it's not about you. I mean, you don't have to take abuse, but at the same time, when you recognize a lot of times they're just calling to, they have a problem, they're trying to get it out. Is it the most appropriate thing to do? No, but if you learn to not take that personal and recognize that it's not about you, then you can move from a different place. You come from a less aggressive place, combative, and thinking in the win-win, then you can try to come up with better solutions on how can you both walk away feeling, less beaten down.
And dealing with families like that, like one of the things I've learned is stay level.
Yeah.
Don't get hyper. Don't get, anxious. Just keep your voice calm, even though inside you want to like explode, and let them get it all out, because 9 out of 10 times they're going to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take that out on you.
Yeah.
And you say, it's okay. You're going through a lot. Not a big deal. And that's
good stuff.
how you just keep moving. But that comes with, just experience and age. Like that's hard for a younger, newer funeral director to do. But as you get older, you just kind of learn to let them do it. It's really not about you. They just need an outlet. So, because they are dealing with something that's extremely hard. So.
That's good. Well, thank you for sharing all that, Randi, because I think all these tips and this conversation dialogue we have can really, I mean, I know there's some differences obviously in what you're doing, but I think a lot of these tools apply in many areas of our life, whether it be personal or, funeral home or another business, right? Customer service and taking care of the client, listening, and all of those things are all valuable skills. So thank you for sharing all that and giving us your perspective of what it's like on your side. If our audience wants to get in touch with you, maybe we have somebody out in the area, or maybe maybe somebody decides, hey, we want to open up a funeral home. Who do we need to call? You're going to be the person. Where do we want to send them?
You can always contact me through Randi at goldsteinsfuneral.com. That's my email. You can go to our website. You can hop on our info email. Again, we're Goldsteins, Rosenbergs, Rayfield, Sachs. We're located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Southampton, Pennsylvania. And our phone number is 215-927-5800. Even if you just have a question about how to do something and you're not going to, we're here. We'll answer any question. We'll help you, whatever we can.
Awesome. We'll make sure too, when this gets out, we'll get you guys tagged and we'll get it in the right places to Andrew, wherever it needs to go, so you guys can do whatever you need. But
we have a Facebook page too. You can look us up on Facebook. You can always message us through that too. We respond. So
okay, good, awesome.
Good stuff.
Well, thank you so much for jumping on here today and sharing with us. It was fun to get to meet you and hear a little bit about what you're doing and your journey. I know it's a different. It's always. I think it's fun to sometimes get different people on here doing different things. So it adds perspective, and people can be like, hey, now we know Jennifer's talked to somebody that's doing this different. So we do want to say thank you for that. I appreciate your time and willingness to share.
Well, thank you for having me. It was really fun. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. We do want to say, of course, to our audience, if you enjoy the show, head on over to Apple, give us a rating there, and you can hit that subscribe button on the YouTube so we can continue sharing all these amazing stories. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another. We will see you next time.